We have started the discussion on the Mahavakya Tattvamasi. Actually, in every single Upanishad, you will find a Mahavakya. What is a Mahavakya? A Mahavakya is that which indicates the oneness between Jiva and Brahma. So that's the definition of Mahavakya. And this sort of a sentence, a Vakya, you will find it in when you study the Upanishads. At that time we will tell you, the teacher has told us, this is the Mahavakya from this one, this is the Mahavakya from this one. Because Mahavakya is, whatever is indicating oneness is a Mahavakya. But the rishis of yore, they picked these 4 as examples from the 4 different Vedas, because each one of the Mahavakyas belongs to a different Veda. Okay, so the meaning of them is the same. And I told you, Maha, great. The greatness is in its depth. It is not in its length. Because if you see, the length is really short. There's Prajnanam Brahma, Tattvamasi, 3 syllables, Ayam Atma Brahma, and Aham Brahmasmi. So 2 and 3 words are there. So the length is not at all a factor. It is the depth. And Tattvamasi is from the Samaveda. It comes in the Chandogya Upanishad. This Mahavakya is generally taken up for analysis. That thou art. This is what it is. That's the meaning, literal meaning of that. And it was actually told to the student, Shvetaketu, in Chandogya Upanishad 9 times. His father, who was his guru, whose name was sage Uddalaka, gave him examples, the disciple, and said, Shvetaketu Tattvamasi, Shvetaketu Tattvamasi, that thou art, that thou art, that thou art. 9 times he said it, and it just said Shvetaketu realized. We heard it 1,000,000 times in Sandipani, but none of us realized. Okay, the reason is that the mind is not ready. That's the reason. So let us, Bhagwan has begun this explanation of that thou art from 241 onwards, and we saw a few verses last time. And he, in the first 241 and 242, he says that if you take the literal meaning, and I explained to you this, the only way of realizing this oneness is through words of the scriptures. But when we say word has a problem. The problem is that one single word can have double or multiple meanings. That is the problem. So a word can have a literal meaning, and then a word can have an implied meaning. And if you take the literal meaning, generally when we understand the Vedas or understand any book that we are reading, we are actually supposed to take the literal meaning, not like we just jump into conclusion and say, oh, what is the implied meaning? What is there may not be an implied meaning. It might be a simple statement like I'm thirsty, or I want water, or I'm hungry, or something like that. So most of the time the direct meaning will apply. But there are sentences in the Vedas where the direct meaning doesn't seem to make sense. And then the student might feel that Shruti is not correct. And that's when this implied meaning comes in. Because the option of Shruti not being correct is not there. Because Shruti has not been written by any human being. If it was a work of a human being, yes, there was a chance of error. There could have been some mistake, some misunderstanding, because a human being can only write that which he has known through the senses, and the senses can lie. So if somebody writes the sky is extremely blue and that is real, then you're like, okay, no, probably not true. But when Shruti has said it, because it is the breath of the gods, because Shruti has been revealed to the rishis in their higher states of meditation, it is apaurushaya, and that's why the chance or the option of Shruti being incorrect we do not have. So when we know that Shruti, no matter what Shruti has said, is correct, then we need to start understanding those words in a different way. And in the statement, that thou art, that is that Ishvara, God, and thou is you, me, And when I take the literal meaning of Ishvara, and when I take the literal meaning of me, myself, no way that I can equate myself to Ishvara. Because Ishvara is Sarvajna, I am Alpadnya, I have got very limited knowledge. Ishvara has got all the knowledge. Ishvara is Sarva Shaktiman, he's got he's all powerful. What am I? I have no power even on my own mind. What I'll have power over others? My own mind I cannot control. My own senses I cannot control. So how can I have any kind of power? He is all-knowing. I don't even know my own tomorrow what I'm going to do. That also I'm uncertain. How will I know everything? So when you take the literal meaning, it absolutely does not make sense. And that is why we have to now go to the option of implied meaning. What is implied by Ishvara? What is implied by you, thou? And then we look at it. And he has given examples. He's going to explain this part in the later verses. So here he gives example of sun and the glowworm. There is absolutely no comparison. If you take the sun, so big, so shining in the sky, and a little glowworm, absolutely, it doesn't make sense if you say the sun and the glowworm are one. But if you drop their size, and take their essence, the sun gives light and the glowworm gives light, then the light is the same. The light of a glowworm and the light of the sun, the light is not different. That you must understand. Yes, the size of the glowworm is this thing, the glowworm is, going like the sun is also, no, that is all okay. But the light is not different. And then he gives the king and the servant. So the king with his palace, with his crown, sitting on the throne is definitely different than the servant who has no throne, no palace, just a hut, sleeping on the floor, etc. But you take that hut away and you take the palace away, take the crown away, the clothes away, then there is a man in the garb of the king and there is a man in the garb of the servant. That man is the same. Man and man is the same. That is how this word has to be understood. And that's why he's given these three examples: sun and glowworm, king and servant, and ocean and well. The water is the same. But of course, ocean is very big and the well is very small. And that is not what we are looking at. And that is how this statement, that thou art, same, aham brahmasmi, I am Atma Brahma, and pradhan, all have to be understood in the same way. So, and then he gives the reason in 243, the difference between them is created by superimposition, adhyasa. It is adhyasa that we have done on the substratum. So when it comes to Ishvara, we have superimposed the upadhi of Maya on the pure consciousness. And when it is me or you, the Jiva, we have superimposed the upadhi of avidya on pure consciousness. And this superimposition is never real because it can go away. We have seen the example of snake rope. We superimpose the snake on the rope, and then when the light is turned on, the snake disappears. So if the snake was really real, it should not disappear. Even the bright light or dark or whatever, it should not disappear, but it does disappear. So it is a superimposition, and therefore it is not real. And like he says, the condition in the case of Jiva is the body, mind, intellect equipment, but the same. So he has given this chart of microcosm and macrocosm. And I believe we were now going to be starting 244, verse 244. Okay. So let's see. Etavupadi parajivayostayoho samyak nirasena parona jivaha rajam narendrasya bhatasya khetakaha tayorapohena bhatona raja. When I read this pohe in my Tripti understood. I don't know, in South India they pohe. Marathi is typical pohe. And you know what? When the boy used to go see the girl, pohe. That was the go-to dish. And of course, it was always said that the girl did it. Whether the mother did it, I don't. So that's what came to my mind. Pohe, oh my God, Anyway, these two are superimpositions of Ishvara and Jiva, but when they are completely eliminated, there is neither Ishvara nor Jiva. When the kingdom of the king and the shield of the soldier are taken away, there can neither be a king nor a soldier. It is tayoho apohe. Apohe means taken away. That is what it is, not pohe. Anyway, so here he says king and the soldier, same example like king and the servant. So you take the uniform of the soldier away, you take the garb of the king away, and they are one and same. So with these Jiva and Ishvara, we have to understand, we have seen this many, many times. What is Ishvara? Is pure consciousness plus Maya. Ishvara we call when this Maya is invoked in Brahman, and then Ishvara becomes the creator of the world. And what is Jiva? What is Jiva? Jiva is, we saw it in chapter 15 also. Mama eva ausha jivaha. It's my part. So my reflection, Bhagwan himself has said. So Jiva is pure consciousness plus avidya. And the reason we call it avidya and not Maya is because Maya is under the control of Ishvara and we are under the control of avidya. It is Maya and avidya are synonyms, okay? It's ignorance. If you were to translate into English, Maya is also ignorance and avidya is ignorance. Both are ignorance. But that ignorance of Ishvara is under his control. The gunas are under his control. The sattva, rajas, tamas is under his control. So with that control, he orders Maya to create. Whereas what is happening with the gunas in our case, the gunas are dictating what we do. I feel tamasic, then even if I have to do some work, I'm like, no, let me sleep in. So gunas control us. So avidya controls us and Ishvara controls Maya. But if you remove the upadhi of Maya and if you remove the upadhi of avidya, what remains is pure consciousness, because Ishvara is pure consciousness plus Maya, Jiva is pure consciousness plus avidya. You remove avidya, you remove Maya, mathematical equation, what remains is pure consciousness. And that is the oneness that we have to look for, like he has given in the example. You take the palace away of the king, you take the shield, the uniform of the soldier, they are both men, they are same. Is this clear? Ishvara is the karana, cause, and Jiva is the karya, effect. Why? Because we have come from Ishvara. All right. So when you reject these two from both these words, you see the oneness. If you keep those two upadhis, you will never see the oneness, and they are not one. Then they are not one. Okay. Athata adeshaiti shruti swayam nishedhati brahmani kalpitam dvayam shruti pramana nugrahita bodhaha tayor nirasa karaniya eva. Now is the injunction, etc. In these words, the scriptures reject the imagined duality in Brahman. Supported by the authority of the scriptures, one must certainly eliminate these two superimpositions by means of direct realization. So this athata adesha instruction or order, and this order is given, you see that the footnote, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says neti neti. How do you follow this? You have been asked to drop the upadhis, right? That's how you see the oneness. So how do you do it is by doing na iti, that's neti. So you take the upadhi of the body and then you think, and that's what we have been doing all this time in Vivekachudamani. That is the crest jewel of discrimination, that we saw the gross body, we saw the subtle body, we saw the causal body, and we said, no, 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 no. And Bhagwan has given ample reasons why the self cannot be the body, or the body cannot be the self. Why the mind cannot be the self, why the pranas cannot be the self, why the causal body cannot be, why the intellect cannot be the self, why the mind cannot be the self. And that is this process of neti, na iti, that is what it is. No, 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 no. Oh, I think I'm the body, but no, 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 no. Body is limited, body is perishing, body is changing. And they say self is not, Shruti is saying self is not changing, self is not perishing. How can I be the body? Okay, that is this process of neti neti. Very, very famous words. These are two words, neti neti, rejecting. And we also had a question from the disciple that, oh, when I do this negation, then nothing remains. Don't forget, the disciple said, I negated all the koshas and now there is nothing. So the Guru asked, who is it that is saying that there is nothing? That is what you need to inquire into. Okay. So, Nishedati Brahmani Kalpitam Dvayam, not real, Kalpitam imagined. These two are upadhis which are imagined on the pure consciousness. Just like we have imagined the directions on space. I've explained this. Space is all one, homogeneous. Now we take the upadhi of the sun and we say, oh, this is the east because we saw sun here rising in the morning. So with the upadhi of the sun, we have superimposed the directions on space. So the directions can be dropped. They are not real. We can very well change, and tomorrow the whole entire world can decide that no, where the sun rises is the west and where it sets is the east. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. This is how we have said, this is east, this is west, and therefore this is north and south. Okay, so that is what we are doing. We are superimposing this body, this mind, this intellect on the self. And we say, I am the body. Even in chapter 15, last week only I told you, the Vimudha is one who says, I am the body. And the Amudha is one who says, I am in the body. I am not the body. I am in the body. So this is how this negation has to be done, supported by the authority of the scriptures. So you can ask the Guru, yeah, but how do you say that, you know, I'm not this? Then Shruti Vakya. Therefore, I told you, Shruti Vakya is always Pramana. Shruti Vakya cannot be changed, cannot be negated, cannot be falsified, cannot be doubted upon. Yeah, Shruti is saying it, but who knows? No, that shouldn't be there. Therefore, faith becomes very, very important. In the beginning, there has to be blind faith that whatever is being said is correct. And I may not understand it, but I will study more so that I will purify my mind so much that there will be a stage when I will come to know, no, what Shruti said was correct. Okay, that is how this should be. So these, by means of direct and ultimate superimposition, will be removed when we directly realize our own self. When I directly see the rope, when the light is turned on, then the snake superimposition can never bother me. That's the only way. Until then, I'm going to say, oh, it's a snake, it's a snake. No, it's not. So that in that example, that light that we say, oh, when somebody walks in and just turns the light on, and that this half darkness is gone away. In our case, because I know I exist, but my mistake is that I think I am the body. I'm existing, I am the body. That is what I think. So there is partial darkness. There's not a complete darkness. If anybody were to be asked, do you exist? Nobody is going to say, no, I'm not existing. That would be complete darkness, no problem. There's no problem in complete ignorance. There is no problem. If there was completely the dark room, the room was complete, the rope also would not have been seen. Then there would be no problem of fear. There can't be fear if you don't see anything. But the problem comes because there's neither complete darkness, nor is there complete light. It's like twilight. It's halfway. And that's what is with us. And direct realization is that turning the complete light on, that knowledge that arises in our mind when we concentrate on this Mahavakya. I am Atma, Brahma, whatever. And next, the topic is going to come, aids to meditation. Okay, how am I going to directly realize is through meditation, and that also Bhagwan is going to be explaining. So far, so good. Any doubts? Okay. Nedam kalpita tattvanta satyam rajju drishtavyaalavat swapnavacha itham drishyam sadhu yuktya vyapohya neyam paschadeka bhavastayoryaha. Neither this gross nor this subtle, like the snake seen in the rope, and like dreams, are not real, being products of the imagination. By a perfect elimination of the objective world, by reasoning, one must realize the oneness underlying the Jiva and the Ishvara. So not this nedam nedam, naidam naidam, neither this gross. Gross is what? Gross world and gross body. I've always told you that please remember that body also falls under the category of world. We think that this is me and that is the world. Yeah, no. I am that supreme self and this body also is the world. Why? Because it is inert, it is changing. There's no difference between the world and the body. So gross is the world and the body. Subtle is the mind and intellect. So you reject all those. Like the snake scene on the rope. I told you never forget snake and rope. And like dreams. Snake and rope and dream, very, very important. Because snake and rope, maybe you have not ever seen like that, but dream to everybody has seen, right? So while dreaming, it is very real, but when you wake up, you know it is not real. So while you're in the body and you're thinking it is the body and you're in the world and you think that, yes, all this is real, the world is real, the happiness is real, everything is real, then by a process of elimination, by a process of thinking, by a process of discrimination, Viveka, that's why Viveka has to come, being products of imagination. They're imagined. This body is also imagined, the world is also imagined. By a perfect elimination of the objective world by reasoning. So this dispassion has to arise out of discrimination. Reasoning is a faculty of the intellect. The mind will never reason. The mind will always say that, no, this is all real. I feel very happy when I go out and in the mall, and today was Black Friday sale. So I was very happy. I was myself. Suddenly I ended up at the bay and yes, it was a great sale. But it's okay. But don't think it is real. Don't think that it is. That's all there is. Okay. So by reasoning, not just blind faith. Beginning may be blind faith, but you have to reason yourself. Because if there is just blind faith in these things, you will lose it. You may lose it. But if you have reasoned yourself and intellectually understood yourself, you will never lose it. You will never lose that understanding. One must realize the oneness underlying the Jiva and Ishvara. On the superficial level, they will always appear different. They are different. At the superficial level, they are different. But when you go underneath, like we have got king and servant or king and soldier. If you look at them, they're totally different. But when you go underneath, beneath, by reasoning, by justifying, by intellection, by intelligence. Okay? All right. Now, tatastutau lakshanaya sulakshau tayorakhandai karasatva siddhaye nalam jahatya na tatha jahatya kintu bhayarthatmikayaiva bhavyam. Therefore, tata is therefore, the two terms, Ishvara and Jiva, should be carefully considered through their indicative meanings in order to establish their absolute identity. Neither the method of total rejection nor the methods of complete retention will suffice. One must reason by a combined process of both. So when I introduced this topic, I had explained this, but I'm going to go over it once again. First of all, I told you words, the problem with words that it has multiple meanings. That is the number one. Because first, Shruti only is telling us that only through words of the scriptures, you can understand this reality. Okay, fine. So we will read words. But when we read words, they have multiple meanings. Then they have direct meaning, and then there is an indicative meaning. So this tattvamasi, therefore he's saying, because at the superficial level, you can never see the oneness if you are at the superficial level. So if you take the direct meaning of tat and the direct meaning of tvam, there's no way there is oneness. Now that, and we told you that Shruti, nothing is wrong with Shruti. So if Shruti is saying it, they are the same, then we need to change our understanding. And for us to change our understanding, we need to understand first that I cannot apply the direct meaning to these words. I have to apply the implied meaning. Now, In the implied meaning, there are three types. There's Jahat Lakshana, Ajahat Lakshana, and Jahat Ajahat Lakshana. Difficult words, but very simple to understand. So in one, you completely reject something. In the second one, you completely add something, and I'll give you examples. So this is which I've given you before. And in some, you keep some, retain some, and reject some. Okay. So red runs, I've given you this example. Red runs, you have to add the word horse to it. Red horse runs, then it makes sense. Otherwise, red runs, direct meaning of red runs doesn't make any sense because the color is not going to be running. Okay. So what you've done is you've added Jahat Lakshana. This is called, Lakshana is indication. So Jahat is you add. Ajahat is you don't add. And I hope this is correct. Jahalakshana, the second where add, sorry, meaning in order to understand. Jahalakshana, Ajahalakshana is called the second where we add something to the actual words spoken and okay. So this is Ajahalakshana where you are added horse, and the Jahalakshana where you take away the meaning is my house is on the Ganges. So what you're doing is you're actually rejecting the meaning of the word Ganges. Ganges is a river. Okay, so that meaning of the Ganges as a river is rejected, and what you're taking the meaning of Ganges is banks of the Ganges, not the river Ganges, but the bank of the Ganges. So then it makes sense that my house is on the Ganges, my house is on the banks of the Ganges. All right. Now the third one is this is that Devadatta. Now this word Devadatta is the common word in Shruti for any example that Shruti gives with a human being. That person is called as Devadatta. So many years ago, I had heard Gurudev very, very humorous way of explaining this. So what he said was, there was a couple, then they had a little baby, then that couple had a friend, and that baby was named Devadatta, and the friend was very close to them. And then he saw the baby, and when that baby was 2 years old, he became 2 years old. That time going to America was a great thing. So this friend got admission to some American university, and then he just took off, leaving that baby behind. And then this friend, he got so caught up in the United States that he never came back for 20 years. And after 20 years, he returned and he wanted to see his best friend. So he went to the friend's house and he saw this young man in jeans, this Gurudev adding jeans with his feet on the table, you know, very relaxed. And, who are you? Asking this man, who are you? And he says, who are you? And then the mother comes or the father comes, the friend comes, and the friend says, don't you recognize him? He says, no, I don't recognize him. So the father says, this is that Devadatta. This is that Devadatta. So what the father is doing is, this is in present time, right now, present place, present time. Okay. So this moment, this Devadatta that you see is that Devadatta which 20 years ago you saw in a different house. So different place, different time. Because that Devadatta was in a crib. I was in a smaller house at that time. Now I have also become rich in 20 years. Now I also have moved away. So the place is different and the time is different. But you drop the time and the place, you drop the time here and place, and those two Devadattas are the same. So you've maintained Devadatta, you've kept Devadatta, but you have dropped the present time, present place, and you have dropped the past time and the past time. So to past place. So that house, drop it. That crib, that time, drop it. This house, drop it. This 20 years, drop it. And what is same is Devadatta. And this is what needs to be done with Tattvamasi. So with Tattvamasi, you cannot just add, like you added horse, or you cannot just reject. What you need to do is you have to reject Maya, you have to hold on to PC. pure consciousness. You reject avidya, but hold on to pure consciousness. So like Devdatta's 20 years, 18 years were rejected. The house was rejected. There, that house was rejected, and the 2 years were rejected. And that Devdatta was the same. This is Bhagatyaga Lakshana also it is called, or it's Jhad Ajhad Lakshana. Extremely important analysis this is. This is how through intellection we have to understand this Mahavakya Tattvamasi. If you have any questions on these, please ask. Is it clear? Therefore, in simple terms, we just, at the beginning we say, Ishvara is pure consciousness plus Maya, Jiva is pure consciousness plus Avidya. You drop Maya, you drop Avidya, what remains is pure consciousness, and that's one and the same. Okay, this is how this is to be understood. When just before the next verse, I've underlined these, when the equipments, the upadhis of both that and thou are removed, what remains is one and the same, the infinite reality. Okay, that's what this example is also very important. This is that Devdatta. And any example you see, the name will be Devdatta. I don't know why, but that's how it is. Now, Devdatta is there in the next one. Sadevadatto yamiti hachaikata viruddha dharma shamapasya kathyate yatha tatha tattvamasiti vake viruddha dharma nubhayatra hitva samlakshaya chinmatrataya sadatmanah akhanda bhava parichiyate budhaihi evam mahavakya shatena kathyate Brahmatmanoraikyamakhanda bhavaha. This is that Devdatta. Just as in this sentence, the identity expressed is arrived at by eliminating contradictory portions, so too it is in the statement that thou art. Men of wisdom should give up contradictory elements on both sides and recognize the identity of Ishvara and Jiva, carefully noting that the essence of both is knowledge absolute. In such wise, hundreds of scriptures declare the oneness and the identity of Brahman and the Jiva. And there's, Gurudev has given the footnote, the Jhad Ajhad Lakshana is also Bhagatyaga Lakshana by some acharyas. It's just they're synonyms, they're the same name. So this is what I already explained. This is that Devdatta where you are rejecting time, and in case of Devdatta, you have to reject the time, you have to reject the place. In case of Tattvamasi, you have to reject Maya, you have to reject Avidya, and you have to hold on to the absolute reality here. That's what Gurudev is saying, knowledge absolute, pure consciousness. And that is how you need to understand the oneness. Yes, Mohini?
Jayaji, we have been listening that this Jiva's consciousness is reflection. It's reflected consciousness. It's not a direct consciousness. It's reflected consciousness. And here we are saying it is the same. It is same, but then it is, would it be the same way like we say Devdat, like we have to forget about the other things, just it is, we have to forget that it is shadow or it is indirect consciousness, it's direct
reflection.
So in that
Jiva
case,
is reflection, we say, but is that statement, is the reflection real?
yes.
It is real?
Well, in a way, if consciousness is real, then we are real too. If we forget body part, this and that, then what is remaining is real.
So what is remaining is real.
Yeah.
So when you forget body parts, you're forgetting the mental pool as well.
Yes.
When you forget the mental pool, the reflection disappears.
Yes. We are forgetting, only then it becomes the real. Correct. Otherwise, it is just a reflection.
It is only relatively real.
Okay. Okay. I always get confused about that. Okay.
Relatively, see when you drop. Okay, so now we are into attitude in meditation, and then the topic will be aids to meditation. Okay, so the Tattvamasi analysis is over. Anybody has any doubts at all? Everybody is very clear in understanding this? You have to absolutely be like doubtless knowledge you should have, like knowledge, and the wisdom will come in meditation, which is like could be births. Like for me, it is still very more births, but at least the intellectual firm understanding must be there. Okay, that's what will help you in life. All right, we go ahead. Okay. Astulamitte tadasannirasya siddham swato vyomavad pratarkyam ato mrushamatramidam pratitam jayihi yat swatmaya grahitam brahmahamitteva vishuddha buddhya vidhi swamatmanamakhanda bodham. Discarding the not self. Okay, in the light of passages such as it is not gross, etc. Neti neti, one realizes the self, which is self-established, unattached like the sky and beyond the pale of thought. So negate this illusory body which you are perceiving and have accepted as your own self. With a purified understanding that I am Brahman, realize your own self, which is knowledge absolute. Very, very clearly, Gurudev has said. So how do I realize this self? How do I realize this oneness? The only way to realize the oneness is to negate the not self. Because right now I have considered the not self to be real. I have not only considered the world to be real, I have also considered to be the body to be real. The mind is real. I am real, I say. I am real. And the meaning, I can say I am real if I am established in the pure consciousness. But I am not established in the pure consciousness. I am established in body. And then I say I am real. Of course, I'm really speaking. You were listening. No, to me, I'm really speaking. That's why that intellectual understanding, you are really seeing the sun going up in the sky in the morning. You're really seeing it. But is it really real? That's why that jnana chakshu, the eye of wisdom, the third eye, that intellection has to come. That yes, I am seeing this body. I am seeing the world. But are they really real? So this, in the light, it is not gross. It is not gross world, gross body. One realizes the self, which is what? Self-established. You don't need any other aid to see the self. Do you need a flashlight to see the sun? Will you need a candle or a flashlight or any other light to see the sun? Is it not self-illumining? So this self is self-illumining. Aware, and I've told you this also, you walk into a dark room, you are aware that you are there and you are aware of the darkness outside. So it is that knowledge absolute. That's why it is called knowledge absolute. Otherwise the knowledge in the real world is, yes, I know this and I don't know that. That is knowledge and ignorance. But this is knowledge which illumines the ignorance as well as the knowledge. That knowledge which is telling me that I know this and I don't know that. That you have to intellectually grasp this and keep reminding yourself this. So negate this illusory body. Why is it? That's why illusory, not false. Again, remember the difference between false and illusory. False is that which never existed, like the horns on a rabbit, the son of a barren woman, the garland made out of sky flowers. Are there any flowers growing in the sky? So there cannot be a garland of sky flowers. That's false. That is false. But the mirage water is mithya because you did experience that water at some point. The snake is mithya because you did experience fear when you walked into the room and you thought there was a snake in the room, in the corner. That's why it is mithya. Because at one point, mithya is that which is experienced at one point, but it goes away at another point. That's why dream. While you're experiencing the dream, it is extremely real. You are having all the emotions. You will have thoughts. Amazing. It's the dream. And if you, really think of the dream, it is so amazing. So amazing. You think in the dream even. You have thoughts. Everything is there in dream. And yet when you wake up, it was false. So like that, when you wake up to the fourth state of Turiya, you will come to know that this world is false. That's why remember that it is false even now. It cannot, that which is real cannot become false at a later date. So what becomes false at a later date was false at the present date. And though we may not have realized that fourth state, there are masters who have realized. And if they are saying that this world is unreal, and Shruti is saying it is, then it is unreal. It is unreal even now. Even when I think this is the most real thing, it is unreal. That firm conviction has to be there. And that will only come by practice when you keep attending and keep listening. That's why it's actually exactly the same thing that we have been saying in Gita, any Upanishad, anything. That's why in Kaivalya Upanishad, the instruction for meditation, one instruction is Atyashramasta. So when you sit for meditation, the Upanishad says, Shruti says there, you have to transcend all the ashramas. What does it mean, transcend all the ashramas? So what are there are 4 ashramas, right? There is brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So when Shruti is saying transcend the ashramas, if you sit for meditation as a student, as a brahmachari, the thoughts are going to come of your studies. That ashrama, each ashrama has its own responsibilities, has its own functions, has its own actions. So if you sit as a grahastha, you will think of your family. If you sit as a doctor, you will think of your patients. If you sit as an employer, you'll think of the employees. If you sit as a prime minister, you will think of the country. So that's why Upanishad says you have to be a nobody when you sit in the seat of meditation. You cannot be a brahmachari. You cannot be a grahastha, because those are the thoughts that are going to come. I'm a wife and now I'm going to sit and meditate. Oh, then what is my husband doing? Where is he gone? He never said, he never told me where he was. These type of thoughts are only going to come. That's why Upanishad is saying Atyashramastha. So in the seat of meditation, I am a nobody. I am not a brahmachari, I'm not a grahastha, I'm not a vanaprastha, I'm not a sannyasi, I'm nobody. And now focus on that one thought. Okay, so this is ato mrisha amatram idam pratitam. Mrisha, mithya. Mrisha, it's a mirage. The world is like a mirage. So you see the water, but it's really not there. Okay, with a purified understanding. Purified understanding is at the level of the intellect, and understanding will become purified when the mind will become purified. So the mind is what we can touch, we can purify. Intellect, we need not purify. We cannot. So purify the mind, and there'll be clarity. Purified understanding, purified intellect is a very clear intellect. Clearly, you know what is right, what is not right. That is at the level of the intellect. And that clarity will come through purity of mind. And purity of mind is reduction of likes and dislikes. Okay? Which we have said many, many times. Clear? Okay. The next one, I don't know the meter. I shouldn't say there is no meter, but as far as I'm concerned, there isn't for me. Mrit karyam sakalam ghata adi satatam mrit matram eva ahitam tadvat sat janitam sadatmakam idam sat matram eva akhilam. So, and then next one. Yasmat na asti sat param kim api tat satyam sa atma swayam tasmat tattvamasi prashantam amalam brahma advayam yat paramam. Yat paramam. All modifications of mud, such as the pot, are accepted by the mind as real, but are in fact mud alone. So too, the entire universe, which comes from Brahman, is Brahman alone and nothing other than Brahman the self, existent reality, one's very own self. Thou art that, the serene, the pure, the supreme Brahman, the non-dual. Okay, so we have seen all these words before, and we have seen the example of mud and mud pot from Chandogya Upanishad. That is the example the Guru gives Shvetaketu and says, you are the clay, you are not that pot. We think we are the pot. Gurudev's joke is there. The potty was going, it seems. He said potty, yeah? He said, was rushing towards the Himalayas. And then somebody asked, why are you rushing to the Himalayas? Oh, I'm going to look for the self. This no need to go to the Himalayas. The self is with you. You're the mud, right? So just as the reality of all the pots is the mud, just as the reality of all the ornaments is the gold. Why? Because the shape and size and name of that ornament can change, but gold cannot change. The size of the pot can become a vase and something else and something else. That's why, okay, remember that part has to be, people forget that. Names and forms can be changed. That's why they are mithya. But the material that is going into the formation of that form, and then when the form is made, a name is given. So there is first the gold, then a chain is made. The form of a chain is there, then it's called a chain. Otherwise, the form of a bangle is there, then it is called a bangle. So first is the material, then the form, and then the name. So the name is always dependent on the form. Because if the gold were to be made into a earring, then they wouldn't call it a chain. They would call it a earring. So the name is dependent on form, but the form is dependent on the material. And the material doesn't change, form can change. That is the whole thing. So this form, which is this body, which has been given a name. First the body came, then a name was given, wasn't it? First the child is born, then it's decided is a boy or girl, then the name is given. So the form comes first, but it came from where? From the material. And the form can change. And we've seen our own form. Are we just like that 2-year-old child that I was? No. I became young and old, and our own form has changed. So right there, we don't, that's why Vedanta, it is said, you are the proof of Vedanta. Only thing is we have to think that way. That's why I liked Swamiji's title, Learn to Learn. I thought, no, our title should be Learn to Think. We don't know how to think. We are thinking and we are the body. So learn to think. Think otherwise. That is what we have to do. And that's why these examples, they are mud alone. So too, the entire universe which comes from Brahman. So there are a few ways of looking at this entire universe coming from Brahman. If you inquire, Raman Maharshi has given a very beautiful this thing in his Saddarshanam introduction. What he says is, if you have 100 ornaments of gold, the commentary on that I read, the 100 ornaments of gold, you can inquire into any one ornament. Where are you going to reach? Gold. And if you reach somewhere else, that means you are wrong, isn't it? There are 100 ornaments of gold. You take whichever. You take the smallest, the tiniest one, or you take the biggest one. You take the heaviest one or the very lightest one. What are you going to end up with? Gold. So with this universe, you start looking into the universe. You're going to end up with the 5 elements. Any form that you see in this whole world, animal, plant, human, table, chair, whatever, computer, scanner, mouse, whatever, stapler, pencil, pen, paper, whatever you inquire into, you are going to end up with the 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. Now, where have they come from? Maya. Where has Maya come from? Brahman. That is how through the universe you can go back there. What happens to us is we get caught in the form. We cannot just go beyond the form. Oh, what a lovely, whatever. Black Friday sale, yay, 60%. That's it. I'm caught in that only. Now I can't go beyond that. It's cotton. So where did the cotton come from? If you think, you will reach Brahman. Because it has come from Brahman, you can't reach anywhere else. There is no other material that it is said, chapter 10, I think it comes, that all the Brahmanda, see, we think this is our solar system. Now, even scientists, have said that there are many solar systems, haven't they? There are many, not just this, ours that we know, our sun and these 9 planets. Now they said the 9th one is not even a planet, whatever it is. We know this solar system, but now they say there are many, many. So it says that, Bhagavad Puran says that no matter which Brahmanda you go into, you will reach Brahman only. So you go beyond our solar system, you go to another sun. Maybe there is a whole solar system there. You go into the black hole, the white hole, the Milky Way, whatever galaxy, whatever Brahmanda, that's why in the Sanskrit term Brahmanda, so solar system, whichever solar system that you go into, you will reach Brahman, because all of them have come from there. And this is what now chapter 15, Bhagavan will say, I am the brilliance in the sun. Not just this sun that I see, but all the 1,000 suns, all the suns that are in this galaxy, I am the source, he says. I am that. This is how this is what this is open-eyed meditation. So when you look outside also, it is an aid to think of God. That is what it is. Okay. So the entire universe is Brahman alone and nothing other than Brahman, the self, because the form is nothing but the material. Like the pot is nothing but the clay. The ornament is nothing but the gold. The form, this body, if you take, it's nothing. There is space, there is air, there is fire, there is water, and there is earth. All these 5 elements are there. And even if one element you take out, you're dead. Take out water. That's why don't get dehydrated. Don't get dehydrated. Drink lots of water. Why are we being told like that? Take out heat, fire element, cold. You will die in the snow. Take out the space. All the space is gone from the cells. What will happen? The body will collapse. There is no way that the body can survive even without one element. It's made out of the 5 elements. It needs all 5 to survive. That's why it is surviving. Okay. So that's why there's nothing other than the 5 elements. So thou art that, the serene, the self-existent reality. And all this world has come from Brahman. And is there a Brahman who is different from me? No. That is the final step. So if you go from outside, like you inquire into the universe, then you reach Brahman. And then if you say, oh, that is that Brahman from where this world came and I am here, that's not a correct understanding. So when you reach Brahman, you are that Brahman. So you become the substratum. You are the substratum of this entire universe. You are Upanishad daily. I don't know how many of you have downloaded, and Gurudev's Kaivalya Upanishad is the app, Just today I heard, I just had it and I lost it. He said, yes, the world is nothing but a projection of your own mind. There is Ishvara Srishti and there is Jiva Srishti. Ishvara Srishti is nature. So when the sun rises, now there are storms coming, that is all Ishvara Srishti. But how I react to it, that is Jiva Srishti. And that's why the world is nothing but a projection of my own mind. That's why they say you change yourself and the world around you will change. Because it's nothing but a projection of your own mind. So if your mind is, that's why we have the story in Mahabharata. I wanted to complete this chapter thing, but anyway, where Duryodhan and Yudhishthir are told, Yudhishthir is told, go find somebody who is bad in the kingdom, who's not a good person in the kingdom. And Duryodhan is told, go find somebody who is good. Duryodhan came back and said, there is no good person in this kingdom. And Yudhishthir came and said, there is no bad person. I tried to find, nobody is bad. Why? Because they are projecting their own goodness and their evilness on the society. That's what it is. So that is what it is. But what we are is we are that substratum which is supporting both good and bad. Okay, we'll complete this topic next time. Any questions?